Hello, my name is Matt and this is Pixelburn, coming to you a bit later than usual, where I take a look at some of the more important, interesting or irritating things to have happened in gaming news last week. Assuming this video actually stays up and doesn't get taken down for reasons I will explain later. The biggest news item this week came out of BlizzCon right at the last bloody minute, meaning more work for me, about Blizzard's new game Overwatch, which was announced with this really bloody lovely cinematic trailer, so Pixar-esque you could show it to a non-gamer, tell them it was the trailer to The Incredibles 2 and they'd probably believe you. They'd also probably really enjoy it, much like I did, since it was genuinely charming, dramatic and funny. Although as a British person I did have one teensy little problem with it, specifically this character's god-awful mockery of a Cockney accent.
Don't worry, loves. Cavalry's here.
Bird's as precious as bird's as...
Overwatch is not an animated movie of course, but actually Blizzard's first foray into first-person shooters, as well as being an honest-to-goodness all-new intellectual property with no connection to the worlds of Warcraft, Starcraft, Diablo or Blackthorn. In fact, Overwatch is Blizzard's first brand new IP in 17 years. Feeling old yet? So what's it about? Well, according to Blizzard, it's a team-based 6v6 multiplayer FPS with a focus on, and I quote, fun over-the-top characters, each with their own specific roles such as tank, support, offense and defense, and all sporting unique abilities, like Reaper, an offense character who can teleport, pull off a snazzy Equilibrium-style gun carter move called Death Blossom, and dresses like a Dark Lord of the Sith. Or Symmetra, who can place defensive turrets and drop teleporters for her teammates to use. And when I say team-based, I mean team-based, since Overwatch will not have a straight-up deathmatch mode. The two game modes revealed so far are Point Capture, essentially your standard FPS domination mode where you secure strategic locations around a map, and Payload, where your team has to drive a large, explosive device across the map into the other team's base while they try to stop you. A team-based FPS, with over-the-top cartoony characters, each performing a specific role, including a game mode where you deliver a payload into the enemy base. Now where have I seen that before? Indeed, immediate comparisons to Valve's own popular shooter couldn't be more obvious. The environments are bright and colourful, the art design is in a very cartoony style, and distinct character silhouettes make it super easy to identify specific characters even at a distance. Not to mention one of Overwatch's game modes, Payload, is literally the same as TF2's one. Right on cue, a gaggle of chattering pillocks immediately began complaining that Blizzard was ripping off Valve. Because Blizzard have always been a churning font of absolute 100% originality, haven't they? Blizzard's entire existence has been based on taking inspiration and ideas from other sources and putting their own spin on it. Warcraft, Orcs and Humans started life as a Warhammer Fantasy tie-in, believe it or not, and the parallels are still blatantly obvious even to this day. Starcraft's Zerg are almost identical to Warhammer 40,000's Tyranids, only with a bit more personality. Lost Vikings took more than a few cues from Lemmings, and Blackthorn was basically Prince of Persia with shotguns. While Overwatch might be drawing more than a few inspirations from TF2, there's still enough to make it stand out as more than just another uninspired rip-off. In Overwatch's case, characters' abilities are closer to those of hero units in MOBAs like League of Legends, specifically with how each hero in Overwatch has their own unique ultimate ability. Then there's the Silver Age comics feel of the setting, the fixed team sizes, the curious decision to omit straight up deathmatch, and a decent number of women on the character roster, compared to the grand total of 1 in TF2's lineup. Possibly. Nobody really knows for sure what gender the pyro is, or whether they're even human. Besides, we're not exactly drowning in colourful TF2-esque first-person shooters right now, are we? TF2 could always use some competition, and competition is good and healthy. Plus it's nice to see more first-person shooters going back to the fast-paced style of Quake and UT with better use of vertical space, instead of yet another flat, plodding modern military shooter. While some have criticised Blizzard for ripping off TF2, others have expressed concern at Blizzard entering an already crowded market for a genre they've never previously worked in. Because we all know Blizzard have never done that before. Yep, this certainly won't be the first time Blizzard dived headlong into a crowded genre they'd never tackled before, and it worked out pretty well for them the last time. 10 years on, World of Warcraft is still indisputably the top dog of the MMO world, even if it is frayed round the edges and a bit long in the tooth. Blizzard have always had a knack for taking pre-existing concepts and refining them, and I don't doubt Overwatch will be any different. No official word has been given yet on whether or not Overwatch will be free-to-play like TF2 is, free-to-play with microtransactions like Hearthstone, or good old-fashioned buy the game with a lump sum of cash and play it. An actual release date has also yet to be confirmed, although you can sign up at the official Overwatch site for the beta test coming sometime in 2015, which gives you plenty of time to play some TF2 while you wait, I suppose. Staying on the topic of first-person shooters, CEO of Activision Publishing Eric Hirshberg confirmed this week in an earnings call that work has already begun on Destiny 2. I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing at Destiny fans there, by the way, not at all. I'm laughing at how fucking brazen this earnings call announcement is. Announcing a sequel before the first paid bit of DLC, sorry, I mean expansion, has even been released is an outright slap in the face to Destiny fans. Activision are practically saying, hey there shit for brains, we're Activision and we can announce whatever the fuck we like. Now shut up and keep buying the DLC at 20 fucking quid a pop. I know it's an earnings call for money people and you have to tell them stuff like this, but Jesus Eric Hirshberg, would it have really killed you to wait until after The Dark Below was released? Or is this the only way you can get an erection nowadays? It's not really that much of a surprise to be honest, and it doesn't mean Destiny 2 will be on store shelves by next Christmas, although it has got me thinking about that whole 10-year plan for Destiny Bungie keep whittering on about. Bungie began working on Destiny in 2007, so does that 7-year development period count towards the 10-year grand plan? Or did the 10-year Tolkienesque narrative saga arc bollocks officially start from release day? Does that mean we've 5 years to wait for Destiny 2 and another 5 years for Destiny 3, or will we see both installments within 3 years? And will either of them have some actual fucking content? Speaking of DLC, CD Projekt Red have announced that The Witcher 3 will have a whopping 16 pieces of DLC available for it in the weeks following its release on February 25th, 2015. Oh great, as if Ubisoft doing a squillion fucking pre-order versions or Bungie charging 20 fucking quid for a map pack wasn't insult enough. Now CD Projekt Red are getting in on this nonsense. Alright, spit it out. How much are you gonna nickel and dime us for, you bastards? I think you dropped a number or two there by mistake. Come on, how much is it really? Okay, now I know that I'm actually fully awake. How much is all this DLC gonna cost? Does not compute, does not compute, does not... Oh wait, no. This is CD Projekt Red we're talking about after all. Yep, CD Projekt Red are giving away a whole bunch of little DLC odds and sods for The Witcher 3 completely for free. The stuff they've revealed so far are little niceties like outfits, beards and horse armour, yet there's also some actual proper quest content like a contract to rescue some missing miners, and all you need to do to get them is buy a physical copy or digital copy of The Witcher 3. No need to pre-order, no need to buy from a specific retailer, and none of it platform exclusive. Whatever version you buy on whatever platform, you get it all for free. Well, isn't that just bloody nice of them? Shame such generosity is so rare nowadays. Meanwhile, The Sims 4 now has swimming pools in it, a staple of the series since the first game and conspicuous by their absence on the release of The Sims 4. The catch of course is it's in the form of DLC. Ah, of course. Alright EA, how much are you charging for it? Ah. I don't know what's real anymore. Oh, and Call of Duty Advanced Warfare came out. Like you really need me to tell you that. So instead I'm going to take a look at yet another developer abusing YouTube's copyright system yet a fucking again to censor criticism of their games. And this week's prize turd is Imminent Uprising, the developer of the game Slaughtering Grounds, who had their publisher, Digital Homicide LLC, file a Digital Millennium Copyright Act claim against a critical first impressions video of the game, posted by Jim Sterling of The Escapist on his personal YouTube channel. Specifically this video, which I'm showing here for the purposes of commentary and news reporting under United States fair use laws, what with YouTube being an American company and all. To doubly cover myself, I'm also invoking fair dealing with regards to section 29, 30 and 178 of the UK Copyright Designs and Patents Act 1988, which permits me to use this footage for criticism, review and news reporting, so long as this video isn't monetized, which it isn't. So if anyone from Imminent Uprising or Digital Homicide LLC are watching this and they have a problem with it, they can kiss my big fat cock. Although if this YouTube channel and these Arizona Corporation Commission records are anything to go by, the developer and the publisher are quite likely one and the same person, a Mr. James O. Romine Jr. Not exactly Columbo of me, I must admit, but it's important to know these things for context. Anyhow, the fun and games all kicked off when the developer of Slaughtering Grounds, presumably Mr. James O. Romine Jr., created this video in response, which is just Jim's original video, except covered in a bunch of insane ranting in white text, complaining that Jim's review, it wasn't a review, it was a first impressions video, emphasised the game's negative qualities, of which there are clearly quite a lot of. that Jim hadn't played the game before starting his video, because it's a first impressions video. Playing it beforehand kind of defeats the purpose, really. Criticised Jim for missing a bug about the landmines not working. Indeed, how could he have missed such an obvious bug in an otherwise highly polished game? Had a go at him for not turning off the game's terrible looping music. It's your game! You put the music in there! And generally a load of other crazy text that reads like the emotional outburst of a bitter developer, which is ultimately what it was. And I can understand why they did it. I mean, you take your heart and soul and you pour it into making something, only for some internet stranger to mock it for the amusement of an audience. It's only natural you'd be upset. Although I find it hard to be sympathetic when the developer promised Steam keys to anyone who voted for it on Greenlight, then banned from the game's community hub anyone who dared ask for the keys they were promised. Not to mention banning anyone offering critical feedback on the game and using sock puppet accounts to post positive reviews for the game. In response to this, Jim took that video, narrated his own commentary over it, and then uploaded it to his channel as a response to the response. Well, commentary is perhaps a poor choice of words there, as Jim spends most of the video laughing his arse off.
So there, it goes on and on like this. So they do the whole thing. There we are.
The developer then took that video, slapped a black background on it and spunked out another wad of text in response to Jim's response to his original response, accusing Jim of committing 60 frames of copyright infringement per second, and other atrocities, while happily ignoring his own copyright infringement, like using this blood splatter taken straight from a Google image search for blood splatter in his game. I know it's the same one because I used the exact same image myself to make this nightmarish ET abomination in a previous video. For the record, my use of that blood splatter image was a transformative work that does not supersede the original. Sadly, before Jim could plunge this whole sorry affair even deeper into Inception style craziness, the developer of Slaughtering Grounds issued a DMCA against his original first impressions video. Unlike a mere content ID match, a DMCA is serious fucking legal business, requiring a proper legal response, what costs real money. DMCAs are often deployed as a scare tactic, and the mere threat of one is often, sadly, enough to make most people back down. And here's where we finally arrive at my big beef with the whole shebang, because when you release any creative work to the public, you are granting your consent for it to be scrutinised, and you have no say whatsoever over other people's opinions of it, especially if you're charging money for it. Nobody needs your permission to express their opinion on your precious snowflake of a creative work. A painting cannot be libelled, a video game cannot be slandered, a movie cannot have its feelings hurt. You have no right to censor an honest opinion of your work with the threat of legal actions. You can, however, be accused of disparaging a product or company, as in the case of PalmerVCleargear.com, but that requires the plaintiff to prove deliberate malice on your part and only applies if the comments you make are knowingly false. So for example, if Jim said he hated the developer with the fury of 1,000 suns and that Slaughtering Grounds was a vector for Ebola, that could be grounds for product disparagement. He didn't know. All he said was that he thought the game was badly made, which is an opinion. Also, the internet tells me. I am not a lawyer. Yet that's precisely what the developer of Slaughtering Grounds has done here, banking on the fact that they're an indie developer to give them some moral authority, trying to paint this as a cruel, garms journalist picking on a poor, idealistic indie developer and earning money off the back of their hard work. Which is bollocks, of course. The developer is a sulky prima donna abusing a flawed law that presumes guilt until proven otherwise, to remove an opinion they don't like under the guise of copyright infringement and to salve their wounded ego. And you can fucking quote me on that. Whatever your own opinion of Jim Sterling, I quite like the bloke myself, incidents like this can happen to anyone who dares to put forward an opinion about something online and threaten to set a dangerous precedent. Because if an indie developer can get away with censoring negative opinions of their game, you can bet your arsehole a AAA publisher's marketing department would start flinging DMCAs left, right and centre to remove anything it deems off message. Showing how there's a whole bunch of DLC content already in the main game?
DMCA.
Give a game a poor score in a video review?
DMCA.
Swearing in a Minecraft video?
DMCA.
Point out obvious flaws in a game being sold for real money and expressing your opinion that it's maybe not quite ready for prime time?
DMCA.
And so on and so forth.
DMCA.
The Slaughtering Grounds is still available to buy on Steam for real money, and needless to say I'm never going to touch it. Not even if it's somehow magically transformed overnight into the greatest game ever made. Because a developer, any developer who resorts to legal bullying tactics to censor people, does not deserve either my time or my money. Nor do they deserve yours. That's all for this episode of Pixel Burn. If you liked it, please do let me know, and let your friends, family and Digital Homicide LLC know as well. At the very least, I hope you found it tolerable. If you didn't like it, however, then feel free to make your own response video. to which I will make a subsequent response video, triggering you to make another response video, making me make another response.